I have to admit, I used to be a little bit of a book snob. I wouldn't even consider a Kindle, let alone an audiobook. It just felt like cheating. But that is until I tried Audible and Open Audible. Ever wonder where I find the time to read all the books that my guests have written on this show? Well, this is the answer. When I'm behind in my reading, I just jump to audiobook. Open Audible is a cross-platform audiobook manager designed for Audible users that can allow you to download, view, manage, and connect your favorite audiobooks on MP3 so that you can enjoy them across all your devices. Best of all, you can control it all from a desktop application. I'm giving away a copy of Open Audible for the entire month of November. All you have to do is sign up to my mailing list. You'll find the link in the description below, or go to openaudible.org for more information. Today's podcast is sponsored by the guys in the flag jackets. Gary and Jim are the guys in the flag jackets. Every week, these two sit down and discuss a wide variety of political issues, all the way from the weird and wonderful world of local politics to more obscure political ideas and concepts. Ever wondered about the 1979 Chicago mayoral election? Well, I hadn't either until these guys came along and blew my mind. Or did you know that the layout of the ballot can have a crazy influence upon the way you vote? Neither did I, but thankfully Gary and Jim were there to tell me all about it. So if you want a fun and intriguing look into US politics from a unique perspective, check out the Guys in the Flag Jackets podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find the link in the description below. So, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Chatter. Today I'm here with Leilani Dowding, self-appointed social commentator and former reality TV star. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Do you know what? It's funny. I have that on my Twitter bio because it was before I was doing GB News or anything. I just realised I was like commentating about all social aspects of everything. So I thought, you know what? I'll just call myself one.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the exact qualifications are, but I don't think there are any. But everyone's a social commentator, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. We are. Everyone is now, aren't they? No one can help themselves. But luckily it's progressed a bit further. And I do. It's funny. My fiance was like, "No one cares about your views," and then all of a sudden, I was on GB News, and he's like, "I'm not GB News. I don't care." He had to change it.
Oh, yeah. GB News has been interesting. Like, it was a bit of a chaotic start to its life, and I wasn't really sure that Britain needed another 24-hour like news outlet, but yeah. they've done all right. I mean, they have more debate, like actual debate, than like Sky News or BBC are ever capable of. So I mean, it's at least interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it's not like your normal news shows. A lot of them, they'll have the headlines at the top of the hour, and then they just kind of discuss the news. So I don't know how it was at the start. I never watched it at the start. I didn't really watch it until they asked me to come on a couple of times. But I do like the formats of it, and they're prepared to, listen to different opinions and stuff, which is what I like. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many debates that like I feel need to be had in the public discourse at the minute that just don't get had, and at least seems like GB News are attempting to forge that path. Like, whether they do a fantastic job is like, I'm sure they'll get there, but
yeah, I know, but there are still so many things, like right now I'm just trying to say to everybody, can someone talk about what's going on with the farmers in the UK? And I just posted a farmer yesterday, and he warned that there would be an egg shortage. And he said that the narrative is going to be it's because of avian flu, but it's not. This is the reason. And supermarkets are raising prices of eggs. They're not raising the prices they pay farmers for eggs, but there's been an increase in how much it costs to produce eggs. So a lot of farmers are like, right, we're not going to produce eggs then because, we're not going to get paid properly for it. It's going to cost us more to make eggs, to, get the chickens to make the eggs, than it is that we're going to get paid for it. So there's this whole, and then the media are all trying to say it's because of avian flu. So,
Actually, I've got your Twitter here. I could play the video for people. I'm not sure. I don't think you'll be able to hear it, but I can play it for people just briefly. I think it's only a short video, right?
Yeah, the Welsh guy, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Hello. It's me again with another egg video. I thought I better get this one out there before the supermarkets put their story across and cancel everyone else out. So when you go into a supermarket now, you might see that there is a bit of an egg shortage. So not many eggs on the shelf to buy, not free range, not organic, nothing. So you're struggling to find eggs. Supermarkets are going to tell you this is because of avian flu. Which, to be fair, there has been a lot of cases of avian flu. But do you want to know the real reason why there's an egg shortage? It's because the supermarkets won't pay the farmers for the eggs. So the supermarkets have upped their price for you, the consumer. But they haven't filtered that price increase down to us, the farmers. So our cost of producing these eggs has skyrocketed. Feed, electric, the price of new birds, that's gone up. But our price of eggs has stayed the same. So we physically can't afford to produce these eggs. So currently there's been 8 million less free-range hens ordered for next year's flocks. So that's just under 8 million eggs every day that we're not going to be producing. So that's 8 million eggs less every single day that we don't produce. And we're already 3 million eggs short of being self-sufficient. So the UK have to import 3 million eggs every day to feed the nation. And now we're losing another 8 million birds because the supermarkets won't pay us. And they're going to blame the farmers. They'll be like, oh, well, the farmers should just stock them and produce you great British food. But we can't afford to. If the supermarkets paid us a fair price for our eggs, then we would stock our sheds and there would be more sheds going up and the UK could be self-sufficient in great British eggs. But the supermarkets won't pay us. So if you can make any sense of that, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But yeah, the current egg shortage isn't really due to avian.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Wow, that is absolutely insane. I had not heard about this at all.
And that's the thing. People aren't going to hear about it. They're only going to hear that there's a shortage of eggs because of bird flu. But it's, and then the media will say, like, well, it's just one farmer. Well, okay, it's your job, media, to now go and speak to other farmers who are going to say the same thing. And then I had posted another farmer who put this whole graph up, and it's crazy, isn't it? And this guy actually warned about it about 3 or 4 days before, the Daily Mail and the Sun started talking about the egg shortage due to avian flu. So, I think it's done with farmers in the UK with all kinds of things.
Like, why are they fucking with the farmers so bad? Like these, I don't get it. Like, I don't know if you saw the Jeremy Clarkson's Farm series on Amazon, which hilarious. The guy's just a fantastic TV presenter. I mean, I'd watch him do anything, probably. But he was like, he did an amazing job of making this point that farmers are getting screwed, and now that they've lost a lot of the EU subsidies, because the government has decided not to match them after Brexit, because that's the problem. It's not because of Brexit; it's because the government chose not to match them.
Right.
And then like with the cost going up, like why don't the supermarket? I don't understand why the supermarkets don't just charge more, because like eggs cost nothing. Like
it's mad, and they charge, but they won't pay more, and it's just like it's crazy. And I think this is farmers have. I put this out to a couple of people, and then someone else said, oh, my friend's a potato farmer. He said the same thing. So I think it's one of those things, isn't it? If you control the food, you control the people. If you have food shortages, you can start introducing certain things for control. So, I do think there's that. And if they put a lot of farmers out of business, there's going to be cheaper land to buy up. Farmers might start selling their land. All kinds of reasons, it could be behind it. And, you can think those through, them yourselves. But I think control has a lot to do with it. Everything.
That's a risky fucking game. If this is one of the things I bring up to people all the time who are like, I don't know. I brought this up to, I'm going to blank on the name now. David Edgerton, who's like a historian of science and technology and just a really, really intelligent political commentator. And I was just like, do do people not realize that like poverty and leads to revolution? Like, do the people at the top, like, are they trying to play this game? Because, like, I think the quote is something like, "Every country is 3 meals away from a revolution," and
Right.
like, why would you screw with the food supply?
It's mad, isn't it? But you know what? You know what? I think this is why they've brought in these weird rules and laws that people have talked about before. You start hearing the word terrorist being thrown around. Like, in America, if you were a Trump supporter, Biden's kind of said, yeah, like a bit of a terrorist. And look at David Icke. He went over to Netherlands to support the Dutch farmers. They banned him from the EU. Now he's a grade 3 terrorist, whatever the grades are, I have no idea. But whatever people might think of the guy, like I actually like David Icke, but whatever people might think of him, whether it's a conspiracy theorist or he's crazy, whatever, he's definitely not a terrorist. So this is the kind of moves and language and all sorts they're using, and he was literally there to raise support for the Dutch farmers.
It's a 2-year travel ban. That's wild.
Why, isn't it mental? And when I first saw Gareth Icke post that, I thought for a minute, I misread it and I thought it was just Holland. And then I reread it and I'm like, it's the entire EU.
The BBC headline says conspiracy theorist banned from Netherlands. So the BBC, that's fake news. Come on.
But yeah. There you go. Like, this is the thing. Even if they call him a conspiracy theorist, how's that terrorism? It's like, it's just mental.
I've heard him say a lot of wild things, but I've never heard him call for violence ever.
Ever. Do you know what? Never, ever. He's always talking about love, and the way through it is through love, and all of that. But yeah, like never. It's never called for violence.
Yeah. He falsely said, Mr. Icke rose to prominence, fringe theories in the 90s. So I'm just reading the BBC article. I always find it hilarious. I always find it interesting how they describe people like this.
Yeah.
He falsely said the virus was spread by 5G mobile phone networks and a Jewish group was involved.
I think they're making that up.
Yeah, I mean, they never talk about, there's a fantastic video. I wish I'd actually prepared it. Maybe we'll be able to find it while we're talking, of him talking about why they need to target the farmers, and it was about, yeah, like you'd mentioned, control of the food supply, and so that's probably what he's been banned for, really.
Yes.
For calling them out.
Yeah, I actually posted that as well. I posted that. That's on my Twitter somewhere.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll find it while we're chatting here. But like, how did, like, he's also very famous for his lizard people theory, which was I don't know about that. I mean, that's like pretty far out.
I guess. I mean, I don't know all the details of it. I guess what he's done is he's looked at different reptilian beings in ancient religions. Perhaps I don't know enough about it to, like, talk about any of that or say what it didn't say. But yeah, no, I think it come down to different, ancient religions and stuff.
I mean, but people are free to believe whatever wild shit they want. Yeah. Like, so it's insane to me that someone's been banned from a country because of their political views. Like, that's what you hear about. That's why I don't want to go to China, because I've had too many people on this show talking about like the Uyghur genocide and like China's awful foreign policy and internal policy, and that's why I don't want to go to China, because I'm concerned that if I went there I would be arrested, right, and never get out. Oh. And that's what you expect from a totalitarian regime. You don't expect that from the place that's literally like preach themselves as like the home of like freedom and liberalism in the West. Like,
well, this is the thing. It's like, what's going on? So, the more things like this happen, the more he seems correct in what he's been saying for like decades, that this is the way everything's creeping. And all these conspiracy theories seem to just play themselves out. It's like, how, like you said, how has that happened? This is Europe. Like, what is going on? You can't say that you want to support the farmers and help round people up together, and it's scary. It's scary the way it's going.
It's really disturbing. And it
Can I just pop quickly? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, don't worry.
I don't have COVID. I've got
right.
a bit of a cold from Friday night.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's not like I'd be in any danger sitting here anyway. I've also never officially ever tested positive for it, which is funny.
No, me neither. Me neither.
I think I had the OG one in February 2020. But yeah. Anyway, so last night as well, speaking of crazy things that went down, last night we had the US midterms, and things have not panned out the way that many people were predicting. We saw everyone was predicting there would be a red wave. I spoke to Adam Coleman about it earlier in the week when he was over in London, and he was just thinking they were going to get blown away, and they seem to have held on to a lot more seats than was predicted. What do you think is happening there? Like, did people just not get out to vote? Is there more crazy people in America than we thought?
I honestly think, well, first of all, I've seen videos now where people have gone up to polling stations and the polling booths aren't working, or they've had their ballots misread, and then they've been told. I've seen two videos actually. One was, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it correctly,
Maricopa County, yes.
Right. I saw that, and the guy's like, nothing's working. It hasn't been working for a while. Then there was another lady trying to explain, like, that you just put your ballot sheet in here and somebody's going to read them, and there's going to be a Democrat and Republican sit through and manually read them all. So there's this going on. So broken machines. Oh, what a surprise. But also, my friend Mitch Feinstein, he's from New York. He actually has written a book called Planet Ponzi. He's an author. He's in finance. He told me categorically that they asked him for his ID, and he said he didn't have any, just to test out. And they said, oh, don't worry, just type your name in. So you can go up, you can put anyone's name in. You can go to as many booths as you want, type in all your mates that are going to vote Republican, and just change it to Democrat. I mean, the system is so broken, it's insane.
Yeah, I pulled up a video here. The Maricopa County said that 20% of polling places were experiencing problems with the machines tabulating votes. Like, and this wasn't the only place in which I saw it. And I'm not even suggesting that there's anything nefarious going on whatsoever, YouTube.
No.
For it. But like, honestly, like, and last night I saw nothing but Democrats, like, as well as this happening, I saw nothing but Democrats claiming that the vote had been suppressed, that this wasn't a legitimate election. And it honestly feels like none of the people in America actually trust the voting system whatsoever. No. Maybe unless they win, right? In which case, the truth has prevailed. But like, the thing that really gets me is like, why the fuck are they still using these stupid voting machines? Like,
I know.
I can pull up, and I will actually. I'll pull up this. There was a report done by CNN, right? Like a good couple of years ago, and they talked about how hackable, right, the voting machines were, right? Like, it was completely insane. Like, completely insane. They did like a full report on it, and they went and showed them, and it was like people being like, yeah, this here it is. Watch this hacker break into a voting machine. 2019. Oh, they're not going to let me play the video.
Oh, what a surprise.
I think I'm in the wrong country, probably location locked. Oh no, here it is. I can play it.
Oh, go on.
DEF CON Voting Village is the only third-party independent assessment team of voting machines, as far as we know, in the entire world. So people come here to really kick the wheels, figure out exactly how these machines work, what the vulnerabilities are, so we can make more secure elections.
Yeah, there's a million different ways to interact with this thing.
Just kind of exploring like what's going on with printing.
This is the AccuVote TSX. It's used in 18 different states, 8 of which are swing states.
Wow.
It's going to start rebooting, and you're going to see that it's having trouble rebooting because there's no card reader. And now you have full admin access on this machine. So you can disrupt the election, you can disrupt people's confidence in the election. When you think about admin access, you can think about like keys to the castle. When you have admin access, you own the machine. You can get it to do what you want it to do. So you can imagine that being very nefarious.
US elections are so complex that we humans cannot do a manual count. We are dishonest and we are error prone. So we have to use machines, while we know that the machines are hackable. So now the question is, we use the machine and now we verify the results by doing a risk limiting audit, and this is where you know that the machine didn't cheat. But you cannot trust machine as a paper ballot.
It's insane. Like, yeah, I hope you could see the what do you call it? The subtitles there. It like, honestly, I've no, like, the guy there's like, we can't hand count the ballots. It's like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, how much do you think these voting machines cost? Like, it's got to be in the tens and tens of thousands, if not millions, right? For these machines. And they why not just pay like 1,000 people to do it for an evening instead of using the machine? And you know, I don't know, pay people to count them 3 fucking times if you really need. But like, France has all their ballots counted by like 11 p.m. on the same day. And I have no understanding of why they continue to rely on this. And the best bit was like, the Democrats were like, oh, you know, the freest, safest, fairest election in history after 2020, after all the questions that the Republicans raised. And then they had 2 years in charge of all 3 branches of government, in which they could have funded as much money as fucking possible into really making sure that there could be 0 questions about this again, in order to prevent what they claim was the greatest attack upon American democracy since 9/11 on January 6th. And to prevent that, they could make it as like reasonable and fair, and not even fair, as transparent and as like unfuckable with as possible. And they chose to do nothing. And then I saw Hillary Clinton with her fucking videos like, oh, the Republicans are preparing to steal this, and be like, you could have like fortified this shit and you did nothing.
It's crazy, isn't it? So it was funny because 2 years ago it was impossible for it to be hacked or stolen or anything, but now Hillary Clinton's out saying they're going to steal this. And you know, it's just mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing. And then you see it, you know, obviously all these videos were coming out on social media about how you can do the hacking, or how people weren't being asked for ID, or how the machines are broken. Yet you saw in the news channels, I saw these 2 people saying, don't watch social media. If you want to know what's fair, make sure you watch us, the news. Do not watch social media. And it's like, oh, wait, why? Because social media is explaining what a corrupt system it is, and how messed up it is, and how the votes aren't being recorded properly, and everything else, you know. So it's just a joke what's going on. It's and like, just look at Brazil. Look at Brazil. No one's even showing barely the protest going on over that fake result.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know enough about the Brazilian elections to know what the fuck's going on. But I know that there was massive protest, like unbelievable. Like absolutely insane. Nationwide protest spark in Brazil. Right, here we go. NBC, that'll do for a video for people.
Tonight, anger
it's
boiling in Brazil.
Completely insane that like people have 0 trust in the system anymore. Like, they have absolutely no trust whatsoever in the fact that, like, when they go to a ballot box, right, and say put their vote in, then it's like no one trusts that that's actually gonna count. And how
can they anymore? How can they really, after we've seen what happens, and we've seen the lies out their mouth and the manipulation and just how sneaky they are? Like, it doesn't surprise me. How can anyone trust any of it anymore?
Yeah, and do you know what? Honestly, the thing that really gets me about it is, like, you know, there was, and I never saw like proof of any shit going down in 2020. There was a lot of very suspicious things. Yeah. But we never got an investigation, and therefore you can't really say what happened, right? But the thing that gets me is like, look, if say I think it was like 40% of the American population didn't have trust in the 2020 election, right? Surely that's a massive fucking problem for the people in charge. And then on the other side, there's the people claiming like voter suppression. They're claiming like loads of different, like, you know, oh, you have to have ID. That's, you know, racist, which never made sense to me. Especially like we're having this debate in Britain when you can get free voter cards from local councils, right? That's a thing. There is no financial barrier whatsoever to getting a voter ID. But
well, if you ask black people in America or any minority in America or even Mexicans in America and say, but the legitimate ones that are legally living there, right? And you say, do you have an ID? They'll be, of course I can. Of course I do. Like, it would be racist to actually think that I don't have an ID. There is the whole thing again where they just turn words around and they use, like, they throw out racist, transphobe, COVID denier, anti-vaxxer. They throw these words out willy-nilly, however they want. When they haven't got a valid point, they just try and shut things down. Like, oh, you're a racist. You want people to show IDs. You must be a racist. Really? Why? You're actually racist by saying you don't believe that Black Americans, Mexican Americans, whatever, Asian Americans don't have IDs.
Yeah, and the same in Britain. It's like, oh, so you think like people from minority background don't have ID? Like Zuby, who had on this show, we talked about how it was the racism of low expectations. It's like, which is, when he first said that to me a couple of years ago, it was the first time I'd ever heard that term, really. And I was just like, holy shit, you're so right. Like, why would I assume that someone doesn't have it? Because
it's the first time I heard it, and it's just right now. And yeah, it is completely.
So like, with all of this happening, then, like you said, the social media has become this place where people are going for truth and understanding and trying to get like the real understanding of what's happening. Because trust in the press continues to go down. It's really funny. They think that people actually still trust them, and anyone that I meet that does, I'm just like, oh. It's like, and anyone that comes at me about these things, like, from the left, I could sit there, and there's zero way that they could like deny anything I say, because I will literally come at them with facts and like things to back up all of these things that we're saying. It's like that's the thing that gets me, is that some people seem to live in this world where like they're correct, and like there is no way that anyone could be right. And and I'm encouraged by my best friend. He's just like, he said to me recently, he was like, you have to consider that every single thing you know, believe, or understand is completely wrong. And there's a massive portion of people who are meant to be journalists who actually are meant to think that way.
Yeah.
Who have zero, it's like, no, I am the stenographer of the truth. And
they won't question. It's like, what's happened to this, like, people. When we were young, didn't we all used to ask, like, why? Oh, how does that work? Why is that happening? And maybe it's like from people being told, like, shh, you don't need to know. Or like parents not. But I've always been that annoying person that was at school. Yeah, but why? I don't get it. Why? And then it was weird when teachers can't really explain why, or they didn't know why, because they just learnt the outcome rather than the process or whatever. So they can even if it was correct, they still didn't know, like, why, how does that happen, like, to get to that answer kind of thing, because they don't know the process, because they've just learned, like, this is what you have to learn. Don't question it. This is correct. That's all you need to know. Everything else is outside the syllabus. Well, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I mean, it never, and I was always that annoying why kid. I never got rid of that instinct, fortunately, for me. But so what takes you from someone who weren't you in Miss Universe for the UK, right? Yeah. So what takes you from
20 years ago, though?
Well, it still happened. 20 years, really?
Yeah. 25 years, actually. Crazy, huh?
Well, you look great for that, for having done that 25 years ago. But like, what takes you from doing that to then, becoming this person who's like very outspoken about these sorts of issues, who like will go on GB News, who will, just talk about all of this, and then someone who becomes a fan of David Icke, and like what on earth is that journey like? Because most people would sort of stereotype someone who would be like, in Miss Universe as being perhaps a little bit airheaded, maybe?
And I think that would be actually a very good stereotype, because I do think they are. And glamour models, I was a page 3 girl for 5 years, and I would say that most page 3 girls live up to their stereotype in real life. But no, what happened? I mean, I guess I was studying economics. So at the time when I won, so I understood basic economics and how the monetary system that we've been taught works. And then actually I read David Icke's book, The Bigger Secret, around, I think I was about 20, 21, which then obviously, you know, studying them, like I said, the economics and the monetary system, I had to look at it very differently, because he put it into a different kind of perspective about the way, you know, money's kind of created, like we've seen in the last 3 years, just printed basically, and is worthless. But what is worth something are your assets, your home or land, and how he kind of he explained it 20 years ago, how you borrow this fake money that doesn't exist because banks are leveraging the money that's come in. So they send you some digits. It's not backed by anything. It appears in your bank account, but it's not real. It's not, you know, they're not notes. They're not gold bars. They're not camels. They're just these digits that appear. You buy your house and you now have an asset. And then if the bank then wants to take it from you, then they now have an asset. And meanwhile, you're paying all this interest on money that never really existed because it was all leveraged anyway. And you then, you know, when they repossess your house, the bank then owns an asset. So he explains it far better than me. I don't usually go into that realm, but it just raised red flags in my head, and I looked more into it so that I could understand it better. And I think that was the journey for me. Then obviously I moved to Los Angeles. I lived in LA, and before it became this ultra liberal, like insane place, it was quite you had the very health conscious aspect of it. And it was there that I saw that a lot of what David talked about regarding big pharma and, you know, not just drugs, but also pesticides and, you know, the things that they put in our water and food. I started understanding more about that and the dark side of that, and how, you know, they kind of don't care if you get ill, because if you're ill, they find some drugs to treat you whose the side effects are probably going to make you more ill. But you're on this cycle with big pharma, and you're a good customer, and you're constantly feeding into, you know, their profits. So it was those kind of things years ago that I saw. But again, as I was modeling at the time, it was always in my head. I just didn't really have anyone to talk to about it, because they probably all think I was mad, or like, oh, Lani, you're kind of boring. Like, why aren't we talking about shoes and clothes and handbags? Like, what's this weird stuff you want to talk about? So I kind of had my other friends that we'd go down these holes and talk about that stuff together. And I think that's how it started. So I've always had it in me. But I think the catalyst was to really speak out was when lockdowns happened. And I knew the devastation that lockdowns would cause. And I could see this as being like, right, I know what they're going to do here. They're going to give you an option that you have to have a vaccine to set you free. And everything else about is going to be irrelevant. The rush of it, side effects, everything else is going to be irrelevant. What they're doing now is they're locking you down so that they can hold this little bit of magic that's going to set you free. And I could tell what was going to happen. So I was really outspoken about it. And then I got a load of abuse. And I thought, you know what? If I don't say, like, I can't be cancelled. I'm so lucky. Well, I could be cancelled. My agent called me and said, Leilani, look, you know, you're speaking about a dodgy subject here. You might not work again. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go and ride my horses every day and not even have to worry about having to be somewhere at A, B, or C time. So I could be cancelled that way. But financially, you know, I'm independent from that. I've got a great fiance who supports everything that I do. I don't really have a boss. well, I don't have a boss. I work for myself. So you can't cancel me. Well, Leilani, I don't know like what you're saying. Oh, you're cancelled. So it's not, it doesn't happen like that, does it? You know, when you're your own boss, you can't get fired for saying something you don't like. So they don't like. So I just thought if I don't speak out, I'm doing myself a disservice. And I had to vent it anyway. It felt good to get it out. It always felt good just to really like let out how I felt. And then after a while, I saw so many people on my feeds and in the comments and stuff saying, God, I really feel this way, but I can't speak out because of work, and I really admired what you're doing. And they had my back and they encouraged me, and they would also make friends with each other and have their own private conversations and made friends with people that felt the same, from being on my page. So it kind of built like a little community of like-minded people. And then obviously it moved on to like mandates and other really important issues that I think a lot of people want to speak out about, but they can't because, they have to look after their families and, work might fire them basically, which is mental, completely mental.
Yeah. Well, much respect for having fuck you money and using it. Because more people with fuck you money, I really wish they actually, used it to say fuck you and just spoke out and said exactly what they think. There's very few people who actually take that freedom and use it, because it's also scary for a lot of people to have to it's easy to hide behind that sort of, oh, I can't say this because this.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the people that didn't for you want to be able to feed your family. Like, there's absolutely no judgment for me for people who really felt like that. But I wish the people who had that freedom would use it more. Yeah,
that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people that are also afraid of backlash or what people think about them. And I lost that a long time ago. I've never cared what people think. Obviously, and maybe it's from modeling or page 3 or whatever. I knew who I was then. I know who I am now. So, the labels and names that you want to call me because of anything that I do that aren't me, it goes over my head because I know that's not who I am. And I've only ever cared that, the people that I love dearest, know who I am as well. So, when I was called a granny killer, I know I'm not. It's the most stupid thing I've ever heard of in my life. Do you know what I mean? I'd never impose my views on a little old lady or a little old guy on the street and say, look, I'm not in a mask, so I'm going to come and breathe over you. Like, if I can see they're frightened, it's a shame, but, I'll respect that person. But I also want to be able to express my views that I think, it was complete and utter bullshit and masks don't work or whatever it is. So I'm always respectful of other people. So I know that I'm not any of the names that people have tried to slate me for or use or anything else. And I think it was weird because like people would always say would say to me I was brave for speaking out, but that has never ever once crossed my mind, because I think you have to be true to yourself, because otherwise, and the more, and I'll say this as well, the more that you are true to yourself, the more you attract great people around you. And because if you're always putting on this fake pretense, then the people around you are going to be people that either are living that fake pretense or really are that kind of person that you have to pretend you are. So you never be truly happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're definitely right there. I mean, I think I was quite lucky in that I didn't really lose any friends over my, I have friends who disagreed with me.
Yeah.
I had friends who thought maybe I was a bit nuts. But none of them ever, I never lost friends. Because I know people who lost like friends and at least for a time that family members wouldn't speak to them and stuff like that. I just feel very lucky that I didn't. As I was saying, I feel like sometimes when like some of the stuff you sort of ran through there that David Icke and people like this have been saying for a long time about like the degradation of the quality of our food through fertilizers and our farming techniques, through the sort of debasement of the currency, the separation of it from gold, and now its sort of worthlessness from like from 2012 to I think it's 2018 or 19, they printed basically £500 billion in this country. And then from 2020 to 22, it was another £500 billion. And like, it's like people that suggest that can't do anything is insane. But you know what is interesting that I haven't seen that many people talk about is that the central banks of the world have not bought this much gold since 1967. So there's a big push from central banks who have been selling off their gold for quite a while, who are suddenly purchasing it once again. From an all-time low in 2010, I think it was, all the way up to 2022, where it's the highest they've ever bought, like central banks have bought since 1967, which is really fascinating.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to pull up as well for people is that like I always think about this when people say, oh, why do you take like a multivitamin or whatever? They're like, oh, just eat a healthy diet. And I never quite bought that. And then I read this book called Citopia by Carolyn Steele, who I had on this show 2 years ago now, actually. And she wrote a lot about how food has lost a lot of its nutritious value. So I pulled up this thing from legalreader.com, but it's like citing some stuff that was talked about in The Guardian. So not some crazy person on the like some crazy, I don't know, conspiracy theorist. I wear that term like a badge of honor.
I know, I agree.
It's just like, oh, you think not trusting the government is really a bad thing. Like anyway, so it says between 1940 and 1991, potatoes lost 47% of their copper, 45% of their iron, and 35% of their calcium content. Broccoli lost 80% of its copper, while both broccoli and tomatoes only contain a quarter of the calcium they delivered in 1940. Like it's like our food is not as nutritious as it used to be, right? And this I don't understand why this wasn't a part of the conversation during COVID, like about public health. Like I was talking to Anthony Janot, which should be probably out before this episode goes live. He's a comedian, podcaster, and like pretty left wing dude, right? And we talked about how like the entire debate became a Twitter fight instead of an actual discussion about public health.
Right.
So basically I just want to point out that you're totally right in everything you just said. And, like, before someone says, oh, she's just listening to David Icke. Because I think it's really important to point out when people are wrong, no matter how crazy they seem.
Well, no, this is the thing. It's really weird because I'm vegetarian, just not for like net zero or any of these things, but just because I'm such an animal lover. So, it's not something I push on anybody or anything else, but I have to take a vitamin B12 supplement, and people are like, oh, that's because you don't eat meat. But actually, the reason it comes from meat is because animals are given a supplement. So it should
really
come around, yeah.
So hang on, does that mean that like free range beef hasn't got like vitamin 12 in, or B12?
I think if it's free range, it might be different, because what happens is B12, well, organic, I don't know if it was organic. Free range would be different.
Or grass fed, maybe.
Yeah, but so B12 actually comes from bacteria in the soil, and it's the bacteria in the soil that create B12. With all the stuff that we're putting, all the chemicals we use, we've killed a lot of the bacteria in the soil. So the soil doesn't produce B12. So a lot of root vegetables like carrots or potatoes or things grown in the soil would naturally be quite high in B12, but we've completely destroyed all this natural bacteria that should be in the soil. And it's really hard even for animals now to get vitamin B12.
Wow. I love Googling stuff that you had
I know. Like,
so, this is sorry. I am 100% listening. I'm just on my other screen looking at trying to bring stuff up for you.
I wish I could multitask like you. You can do that. I get like so sidetracked otherwise. But and also I think, and I totally agree that there was never the conversation about really good health during the lockdowns and COVID. I mean, like, what do they tell you? To stay in your house for 23 hours a day. You can only come out 1 hour a day. Well, what about sunlight, fresh air, just being outside? Like, even if you don't. And that's another thing. I just got like absolutely ripped to pieces by one article because I said something like, it's always the unhealthy people telling healthy people how to live, and why is it that if you talk about like sunlight and fresh air and being outdoors and not just a good healthy diet but sleep and rest and all the rest of it, why is it that everyone just thinks, oh, that's nonsense, big farmers made us think that being healthy is going to your doctor and him putting on you on a load of pills that are going to make you better, and that's health.
Yeah. I mean, I still to this day will never understand why vitamin D was being good for your immune system was labeled as a conspiracy theory. Like that was the most insane. That's when I really was like, what the fuck are these people at?
Yeah.
Like actually, what newsreader is sitting there, or what scientist is sitting there and read it, like listening to this and going, oh well, yeah, obviously vitamin D does nothing for the immune system. Like, so anyway, I pulled up some stuff here just about B12 quickly for people. So apparently, this is crazy. So a cobalt, like, so yeah, you're right that a lot of livestock get a vitamin B12 supplement, right? This is because apparently of a cobalt deficiency in the soil, which is cobalt's a component of vitamin B12. So if there's cobalt deficiency in the soil, it means that it's not in the grass, and it leads to cobalt deficiency in sheep and cattle, which leads to vitamin B12 deficiency, which means that there isn't any in it, which means that they end up getting it given as a supplement because it can like reduce their appetite, cause anemia. In cattle, it can reduced milk production in cattle as well. That's interesting. So basically, it's the reason that we put B12 in with animals, or the reason we give them that supplement, is because the soil quality has become so bad that like they're no longer getting the nutrients from the soil. Wow. Which goes back to what we were talking about the vegetables and everything not being as nutritious anymore.
And isn't that wild as well, that they'll go like, oh, you need one because you're vegetarian, and normally you get it from the animals, but that's the only reason you get it from the animals, because the animals are given the supplement because they're not getting it from the ground either. So it's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. What a crazy world. So what do you think's going to happen? Like, how's the next couple of years going to go?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm always one of those people. I'm just like the optimist, the ever the optimist, and I always try and be hopeful. Otherwise, what's the point, right? If I thought that nothing could change, then why would I bother? I could just totally isolate myself and just forget. But I speak out because I want there to be change, and so I'm hopeful that even the last 3 years have been so drastic, but I actually do think it's woken a lot of people up who hadn't really thought about it, even if it's like stopped people trusting the news or just small things. They don't have to agree with everything I say, but it's made people go out, oh, hold on a minute, let me just look that up. Or it's like, great, like, you just did it right there. You said, oh, hold on a minute, let me check that and let me see what's going on with vitamin B12 and why animals have it in the shops. And I always say that everyone should do that, with everything. I sit there always on my phone looking at all sorts of bits and pieces when I'm watching something. And I, people should do that. But I do think, going back to your point, because I wander off on tangents all the time, going back to your point, I do think a lot of people are seeing what's going on. A lot of people are seeing like the illusion of democracy is dead or dying, because I think a democracy had kind of died a little while ago, but there was still this illusion. And I think people, with Rishi Sunak being installed and all kinds of things like that going on, I think people are starting to see this illusion's wearing thin a little bit, and they can see, and in that whole conspiracy that there's this global handful, I don't like to call them elites, but this global elite that's, you know, kind of instructing governments and everything else. Well, we see it now. It's WEF.
Yeah, they give conferences. They have conferences where they live stream their talks about it. Like,
you know,
the fact that people still deny it is insane.
It's mad, isn't it? And they have a lot of influence and a lot of power over what gets done in government. And you even have Klaus Schwab himself saying, we will penetrate your cabinets. So, you know, there you go. Like, how can we deny what's going on? But I think people will rise up, and humans always, you know, figure out a way, don't they? They usually figure out a way. And I think that's what happened, you know, and there's a lot of people saying, well, we know, Rishi Sunak said it, they want, like, you know, digital currency. Am I scared of that? I'm scared of digital currency itself, but I'm not scared that cash will go away, because it can't, even if it's a black market for cash, even if people are taking cash illegally, there will be cash or something similar to cash or barter or IOUs. So, you know, just my friend said to me today, she's like, I was just in Sainsbury's and the power went out or the systems were down and they could only take cash. So, you know, I had another friend that said that he was at a race course and the same thing happened. They could only take cash at the bar because something wouldn't work. And I think, like I said, whatever there is, humans will find a way. And we must, like, you know, try and make sure we don't have these digital what central bank owned digital currencies, right? Not whatever.
Yeah, CBDCs.
CBDCs. And then obviously, like, Rishi out of his own mouth as well said they could be programmable, which would then, you know, link in with social credit. So you just, you know, it's humans have just got to see this and don't live in fear of it, but be like, okay, if this could happen, how do I protect myself? How do I put, like, this ring fence around me to make sure that I'm okay? And I'm always going to hold cash, and I'll make sure that I know friends that will take cash and use cash and whatever. And, you know, I said to a farm friend of mine, I go, if they introduce these, I always get the acronym.
CBDCs.
CBDCs. Can I still buy my hay off with you with cash? He's like, yeah, as long as the pub down the road lets me spend the cash in the pub.
Oh, love it.
So, yeah, it's all about that, isn't it? Making sure that there's a small group of people that, you know, that they'll let it flow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the British public are quite ready to give up cash yet, thankfully.
No.
But the CBDCs are so insidious. And, like, people, like, I keep seeing, like, sensible people, like, I see Max Robespierre, who's a pretty left-wing dude, right? And he is a really big YouTube channel. I tried to get him on the show. He agreed, and then I assume he saw some of my things and then rethought it. But which is really funny, because I work really hard to make sure I have people from left and right on this show in pretty much equal measure, right? And it's so much harder to get the left wingers to come and speak about their ideas. They, like, at the right, like, I can get really big people from the right and from the center, and the left wingers are just impossible to get hold of. I mean, not always. Like, there's some ones that are always willing to come and chat. Like Marina Purkis, like, big shout out to her. She's really intelligent, like, commentator, talks a lot. I don't agree with everything she says, but she came down, we chatted a lot about things, and she was brilliant. But, like, generally they're very difficult to get hold of because they're not willing to defend their ideas, I think, is the...
Well, no, that's the thing. And they don't always have facts to back things up with either. So, you know, so it's hard. And but you see that it's like, the left very quickly resort to name calling, rather than or attacking the person rather than what the person is saying. They don't have great defense for a lot of the things they say.
But I'd seen Max Robespierre. He came on. He basically tweeted, like, "Why are the right afraid of digital currency?" And I was like, "Are you insane? Like, I don't understand how, because, like, the left, like, in like." I've gone crazy several times over the past few years, being like, have I changed? Have I changed the way I think about things? And, like, I talked to a few people about this recently. They were like, no, you basically, like, you might have slightly different ideas about different policy positions, but, like, you literally have the same ideas that you've always had, right? people have, like, a lot of the left just seem to have, like, abandoned this idea of being skeptical of, like, centralization and government power, and especially corporate power.
Yeah.
And I have no idea where this went. And, like, if there's anyone listening to this show, and I know there are people on the left who still listen to the show, like, please, if you think I'm going crazy, tell me in the fucking comments. But I don't think I've changed my standards of, like, what I believe, what I need for, like, believing something, for evidence, for, like, I don't think I've changed the way I look at the world. and yet I watch myself seem to become, like, further and further from these people. It's so weird.
Yeah, well, I think that's how a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of people like me that I've always been quite center. You know, sometimes I would even have said in the past I've been a little more towards the liberal side. But it's like the left have done this enormous shift, like right over here. So now center's here. I don't know if I'm showing up on the correct side on the computer, but center's here. This is left to me. Center's here now, but I'm still where I was, but I'm here. So right, you know, so now I'm right, aren't I? I'm like, and then, like, you know, people would be like, oh my God, Leilani, you sound like a Trumper, or you sound like so right wing. And then I've thought, well, hold on a minute. By today's standards, I guess I am. Like, what can I say? Like, you guys have shifted so far to the left that my ideas that have always, for the last 43 years, been in the middle are now right wing. It's the maddest thing. It's like, I mean, like, they're calling Russell Brand right wing. And that's how far it's shifted. It's
the stupidest one I've heard yet. The Russell Brand is right wing thing. Like, and like, I still believe in like a publicly owned NHS. I believe we should probably nationalize. I think there's a very good case for nationalizing public transport, energy, water, communications lines. Like, I think there's really good cases for state ownership of loads of industries, right? And I would 100% back it. I was a big fan of Jeremy Corbyn, and like, the fact that I'm being called, like, and yourself as well, like, the fact that we're considered right wing now is so crazy.
It's mad. It's just so mad. It's really mad.
Not even that right wing's a bad thing. That's the other thing. Like, being right wing is not being evil.
All right, far left. Sorry, I've been called far right. Far right. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is insane. It's so insane.
But anyway, Leilani, I've taken up a lot of your time, so I really want to thank you. This has been really fun. Like I said, people, if you think I'm going crazy, let me know in the comments. And yeah, is there anything you want to point people towards, like your Twitter, something you want people to look at to promote, or anything?
Just catch me on Iconic from time to time. Actually, what am I talking about? Monday. Sorry, Iconic Tuesday night, 7 p.m. I'm on there. GB News time to time. I'm always like ranting on Twitter. If you fancy looking at that, my Instagram's like being taken down, so won't really see me on there. Those right-wing views, apparently, which used to be centre, but hey. But no, thank you very much for having me on.
Wonderful. Well, thanks very much, everyone. I'll put links for your Twitter in the description below, and everything I pulled up as well. Hey, everyone. Thanks for making it right the way to the end of the podcast. I love that you tuned in this long. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, because 80% of you bastards are not subscribing, but you're watching my videos. See you next time. So whenever I'd be out for a walk, whenever I was going to cook dinner, whenever I was doing cleaning, I always used to spend my time listening to music. And I still really enjoy listening to a lot of music. But what I've discovered is that I can consume so many more books when I'm using something like Open Audible. It's a fantastic, fantastic way for me to make my way through all the things I have to read for this podcast, for things I want to read for fun. That's like fiction and non-fiction. Sometimes I actually prefer fiction when it's being read to me. I like someone doing the voices, like someone, you know, really getting into the characters. In the case of both fiction and non-fiction, it allows me to spend way more time visualizing what I'm reading. So I can think more about the ideas, I can think more about the scenes that people are trying to paint, and ultimately it just gives my brain more space to think because I'm not concentrating on the words in front of me or trying to stay focused on it. Instead, I can just sort of mindlessly get on with whatever task I'm doing and listening via Open Audible. Now, the reason Open Audible is great is because it allows me to do it straight from my desktop. I try to stay away from my phone as much as possible in order to sort of maximize my productivity because it can be a very fast way to waste half an hour. Whereas if I just open my laptop and hit play on Open Audible, I can connect it to my Bluetooth speaker and then I don't even have to go anywhere near my phone. Do you like free stuff? I'm sure you do. Well, I'm going to give away a free copy of Open Audible to one lucky person that signs up for my mailing list in the next month. Now, those of you who are already signed up, don't worry. You can be involved in the draw as well. Just give me a rating or review on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and post it on Twitter. Send it to me via email. Respond to something I've posted on YouTube. Somewhere you can prove you've got a screenshot and I will enter you in the draw. I have to admit, I used to be a little bit of a book snob. I wouldn't even consider a Kindle, let alone an audiobook. It just felt like cheating. But that is until I tried Audible and Open Audible. Ever wonder where I find the time to read all the books that my guests have written on this show? Well, this is the answer. When I'm behind in my reading, I just jump to audiobook. Open Audible is a cross-platform audiobook manager designed for Audible users that can allow you to download, view, manage, and connect your favorite audiobooks on MP3 so that you can enjoy them across all your devices. Best of all, you can control it all from a desktop application. I'm giving away a copy of Open Audible for the entire month of November. All you have to do is sign up to my mailing list. You'll find the link in the description below, or go to openaudible.org for more information.